Proctor B and the Love Letter. Author. Miss B, a teacher and dormitory supervisor at Sea Girls School, could be described as a stern and notorious spinster and a steadfast Christian. Approaching her 40s, she had a face covered in freckles without the slightest trace of feminine attractiveness. Her withered, rough, dry, and yellowed face brings to mind a moldy piece of dried fish. With layers of wrinkles adorning her furrowed forehead and sparse hair that she couldn't style properly, just loosely combed back, resembling goat droppings stuck to the back of her head, there was no way to hide the signs of aging. When she narrowed her sharp lips and peered through her spectacles with icy eyes, the students shuddered and trembled, feeling her strict and imposing presence. Miss B despised and detested what were commonly known as love letters. While it was common for such letters to arrive frequently at the girls' dormitory, whether due to the school's reputation or the presence of many beautiful female students, every single day, dozens of love letters professing undying affection were delivered to the dormitory. As part of her duty to review all correspondence received by the dormitory residents, such letters naturally fell into Miss B's hands. Reading each sweet romantic story, she became increasingly agitated, her face turning various shades of red and blue, her hands trembling with anger, as if she couldn't contain it. Receiving such letters for no apparent reason was a significant ordeal for any student. When school finished for the day, the student, trembling with fear, would be summoned to the supervisor's office. Anxiously pacing back and forth in the room, as if ready to pounce on the incoming student, the supervisor approached until their noses almost touched, glaring directly at her. Though not understanding the reason, the student, sensing the teacher's mood and filled with apprehension, finally managed to muster a feeble voice and asked, "You called for me?" "Yes, I did." "Why?" the supervisor retorted sharply, as if striking with a whip. Then, visibly displeased, the supervisor abruptly pulled her chair, sinking into her seat, seeing her victim just standing there, and exclaimed, "Are you a statue? Why aren't you sitting?" The teacher and the student sat facing each other across a small desk. Even after sitting down, the teacher remained silent, glaring as if saying, "You know your wrongdoing." After a while, she finally pulled out the letter and slammed it on the desk in front of the student, demanding, "To whom is this addressed?" She then proceeded to interrogate. The pupil found her name on the envelope and could only answer, "It's addressed to me, ma'am." Then the supervisor asked if the student was aware of who sent it. As the sender's name was often unclear in such letters, the student hesitated, unable to provide a clear answer, and responded that she did not know who it could be. Then Miss B's anger intensified, demanding the story to be read aloud. Reluctantly, the indifferent student began to read the words, sweet as honey, but as the teacher's frustration grew, she insisted on knowing the identity of the sender. Despite the student's attempts to justify and deny any wrongdoing, the teacher refused to listen. She threatened to expel the student if the truth wasn't revealed, claiming it was absurd for the sender to write to a woman who doesn't even know his name, suggesting there must be some illicit behavior involved. Miss B even went as far as to insinuate that they might have met somewhere before, and questioned how the student ended up in contact with a man. If the student hinted at having seen him at a school-sponsored concert or a bazaar, Miss B relentlessly probed, scrutinizing every expression and word exchanged, subjecting the victim to intense interrogation as if she had lived 10 years of her life. After over 2 hours of interrogation, she fervently lectured, insisting that men cannot be trusted, that they are demons seeking to devour innocent women, and that notions of love and freedom are all fabricated lies of the devil. Without even pausing a few seconds, she continued to speak, kneeling on the unwashed floor. As the room had a bed, it technically wasn't a room floor, but rather a parquet floor, offering prayers with tears streaming down her face, pleading to God the Father to save the innocent lambs from falling into the temptations of the devil. Secondly, what she detested most was when students had male visitors coming for visits. No matter the excuse, she made sure they couldn't meet. Even if they were the father or the brother of the student, she always found a way to send them away, citing rules or pretending they were busy studying. As a result, the students went on strike, and Miss B was cautioned by the principal. Yet she didn't seem to want to change her ways. In the dormitory supervised by Miss B, something strange happened this autumn, or rather, it was revealed. If you ask why, it's because the beginning of such strangeness was God knows when. It was none other than the peculiar occurrence of giggling laughter and murmuring words flowing through the air when all the dormitory students were deeply asleep late at night. It wasn't just for 1 or 2 nights. These sounds were heard by the alert ears of some students, but to their drowsy ears, these murmurs sounded like the song of dry leaves rolling in the backyard breeze, or the cries of geese flapping their wings in the moonlight. Fearing it might be the mischievous prank of a goblin, they shook their roommates awake, but they wouldn't wake up. Realizing how absurd and ridiculous their thoughts were, they eventually dismissed them, attributing the distant nighttime noises to conversations in neighboring houses or simply to the sleep-talking of their friends in other rooms, and went back to sleep reassured. Then, the moment arrived when the mystery was finally unraveled. It occurred when, coincidentally, 3 students sharing the same room were all awakened simultaneously. The first girl got up to use the bathroom, and upon hearing the noise, she woke up the second and third girls. "Do you hear that? What's that noise in the middle of the night?" the first girl said, her eyes wide with fear. "I was startled by that noise last night, too. Could it be a goblin?" the second girl said, rubbing her sleepy eyes. Among them, the third girl, known for being the oldest, though she was only 17, and for playing pranks and mischievous deeds, listened intently, seeming skeptical of her friend's words. "That's suspicious. I think I have heard something like this before. What kind of nonsense are sleepless kids talking about?" she said, casting doubt on her friend's claims. At that moment, the eerie chuckling noise echoed again, causing the 3 girls to listen intently. In the silent night, with no other disturbances, the mysterious words seemed to be distinctly audible, as if whispered right beside them. "Oh, Taehoon, that would be wonderful," the woman's voice was lilted. "If you are happy, Kyung-suk, how happy I would be. Have you finally realized my burning heart devoted only to you, Kyung-suk?" The man's voice was filled with passion. There was a moment of silence. "Now, enough of this kiss. It shouldn't go on for too long. What if someone sees us?" said the coy woman. "The longer, the better, don't you think? Even if I were to kiss until my last breath, it wouldn't be long enough. Even then, I might sigh, saying it's too short." The man's fervent tone was subdued by the woman's giggling. It was an unmistakable flirtation between a deeply enamored couple. Who would have thought such a thing could occur in this strict dormitory? The 3 girls exchanged glances. While astonishment and fear were evident on their faces, curiosity began to gleam in their eyes. In their minds, a stream of romantic thoughts unfolded. They wondered if the male lover, eagerly pacing near the school to catch a glimpse of his sweetheart inside, had also crossed the dormitory fence, unable to contain his passion, eagerly awaiting the moment darkness cloaked everything. All lights were extinguished, and only the moon's bright, silvery light filtered through the window, quietly opened. Perhaps the woman waved a white handkerchief, signaling her lover to draw nearer. Maybe there was a scene reminiscent of those often depicted in films. A long sheet might have been extended from the window, one lover climbing while the other pulled the makeshift rope, one from above and the other from below. Perhaps the lovers met this way, their whispered declarations of love growing more frequent. Dreamlike emotions enveloped the minds and bodies of the 3 girls like mist. Their cheeks flushed warmly. Then the strange noise emerged once more. "I don't like you. I don't like a man like you." This time, the tone was firm. "My angel, my sky, my queen, my life, my love, save me, rescue me," the man's pleading voice. "Shall we go and see?" the mischievous third girl suggested, rising to her feet. The others hesitated briefly, exchanging looks of curiosity, fear, and excitement, before agreeing to open the door and step out quietly. Like rice weevils, their cautious footsteps moved towards the direction from which the sound emanated. The pale figures of the 3 girls, just awakened from sleep, moved silently like shadows in the dim corridor. Finding the source of the noise was not difficult. Upon discovering it, they were startled enough to halt in their tracks. The noisy room, they realized, was none other than the supervisor's office, just a few steps from their own room. The fervent plea of a love without equal still echoed within. My angel, my sky, my queen, my life, my love, my darling, you'll dry me up and kill me. You'll tear out my heart and kill me with your lips which have taken my life. Boldly, the third girl swung the door wide open. 6 eyes darted into the room. What an unusual sight it was. The light was still on, and scattered across the bed were envelopes of so-called love letters from students, their contents strewn about haphazardly, while Miss B sat alone, all by herself with no one else around. She stretched her arms as if to embrace someone, her short-sighted eyes fixed intensely on a particular spot without her glasses, her face contorted in an indescribable expression of pleading, as if beckoning someone while holding her breath in anticipation of a kiss, her lips puckered as if awaiting a kiss. In a pleading tone, she repeated the previous words, projecting her voice like a man, as if offering herself for a kiss. Suddenly, as if startled, she turned abruptly, gesturing as if pushing someone away with limp movements, and in a sharp female voice she uttered, "I don't like it. I don't like a man like you," and burst into laughter, seemingly amused by her own words. Then suddenly, she picked up a single letter, one of the many love letters sent to female students, and pressed it against her face, saying, "Is it true? Do you love me like that? Do you love me as much as your life? Me, of all people?" As she straightened up, her voice unmistakably carried the tune of tears. "Oh my, what's happening?" muttered the first girl. "Perhaps she's gone mad. Why else would she be standing there alone in the middle of the night acting like that?" replied the second girl. "Oh dear, what a pity." The third girl wiped away tears that flowed down her face unnoticed.